Hi, today I want to talk about Friedrich Froebel, born in Germany 1782 and died in 1852. He is otherwise known as the father of kindergarten, the child's garden. And today we're going to talk about his philosophy of education. To provide some cultural or context for Friedrich Froebel, when he was born in 1782, Germany, as we now know it, was divided into 300 different sovereign states. And there was a trend moving towards unity and nationalism, and so by 1806, there were only 100 sovereign states. This trend continued on until the late 1800s when Germany was unified, but this unification played a part in Froebel's philosophy of education when it came to teaching and instructing children in regards to national loyalty. One of the other things that Froebel believed in was this garden idea of children's learning. Froebel had a very unhappy childhood. His mother died when he was 9 months old, and the woman his father remarried was unkind to him. He imagined, therefore, a better place of learning for his own children, or for children in general. And this came in the form of, like I said, a metaphorical garden or a literal garden. In this particular case, this is the Butchart Gardens from Vancouver or from Victoria, Canada. If you haven't been, I highly suggest it, but I digress. His concept of the garden came about because he thought that children should have the ability to play in an unstructured area where they were able to explore their environment, interact with the different textures, interact with the different components of the environment, and make meaning of their environment to build their skills, to determine what was interesting to them, and to further their learning in this manner. Froebel had 3 tenets. Actually, he had many more tenets than that. But here I want to talk about 3 of them today. Unstructured play, autonomy, and ownership of learning. I'm going to talk about unstructured play later. For right now, I just want to talk about autonomy and the ownership of learning that we can utilize or that we can learn from in Froebel's philosophy of education. Autonomy really is about being independent. Froebel believed that children should be independent in their learning, and by able to explore, they would become independent in terms of being able to determine what their interests were and what skills they needed to develop. He also believed in reflection, not necessarily in terms of writing down their reflections to interact with their learning, but just being reflective in nature of, why do I like this? Why do I enjoy this? What can I learn from this? Ownership of learning. Froebel believed that when children were able to explore their environment by themselves and be able to choose that which they wanted to learn and when they wanted to learn it, well, then they were intrinsically motivated to continue learning, as opposed to being told what to learn and how to learn. He believed that ownership of learning would enable children to develop this intrinsic motivation. He also believed that children should be able to determine the what and the why they wanted to learn. Being able to choose which area of the garden, the metaphorical garden they wanted to explore, allowed them to determine what they wanted to learn and why they wanted to learn it. Why does this interest them? In this manner, then they begin to develop their own sense of learning and direction for where they want to go with their learning. In today's society, we can take a few lessons from Froebel. In today's education, we are actually now faced with a lot of instructional technology. I don't know about your schools where you're at, but instructional technology is becoming ubiquitous. We have computers, devices, Wi-Fi, apps, platforms, and the like. What we are discovering, however, is the lack of purposeful instructional technology in the classroom. We have a generation of digital natives. I would argue that they are digital naives, but they understand and know how to use the technology often better than their teachers. So what are we as teachers doing with this instructional technology? How can we foster the students' learning for this new environment that they are in? What can we do in order to provide this unstructured play or environment for students to develop their interests and their skills? We also have an increase or resurgence of problem-based learning. Yes, Dewey back in the early 1900s had a laboratory school where he emphasized collaborative work with each other to solve problems of significance. Currently, we are seeing a resurgence of being able to give students authentic learning tasks to solve problems collaboratively. In this regard, we are following examples of Froebel, of having a garden in which students can play and experiment in. I would like to suggest that the implication of Froebel's unstructured play hits very home here in our new societies that are our emerging society, in terms of having students being able to work with their problem-based learning, to collaborate, to develop the skills that they need in order to be successful in today's creative economy as opposed to the industrial economy. So we have much to learn and appreciate from Froebel's philosophy. Much like Germany was, our globe is decreasing its borders. With the emergence of technology, our borders are decreasing and we are becoming a more globalized society. Perhaps it is time to embrace these changes and work with our global neighbors. Socially, our students need to develop their skill sets according to their interests to solve problems of global significance. Perhaps it's time to let them play. Perhaps it's time to embrace the digital Froebel and enter the technology playground. Here are the resources. Thank you for listening.